Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Hampshire Saves CNI Lighting Controls webinar. Lighting has always been a big part of our programs. There's a lot of it out there. It's a necessity for our customers. It's very tangible, and it's a great opportunity in New Hampshire. If you have any questions related to this webinar, please put them into the chat. Um, at the end of the webinar, we will take questions from that are entered into the chat. And I know there are probably a lot of questions related to lighting controls. What is New Hampshire Saves? If you're on this call, you're probably somewhat familiar with New Hampshire Saves, but I'll go over it again. It's a consortium of utility companies in New Hampshire that help customers implement energy savings at their business or house. My name is Phil Kozlowskis. I've been at Eversource for about 3 years. People refer to me sometimes as the lighting guy for New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Also in Massachusetts, I am in charge of the new EBCX program. Just a little background on myself. Um, I started working in these programs doing residential audits, then moved to sales for small business, and then came to Eversource, where I've been managing this program. And alongside me is Tara Godet. She's from Resource Innovations, and she works as an outreach coordinator for New Hampshire and Massachusetts. If you aren't familiar with Resource Innovations, they are a company that we hire to help implement these programs. And they are contracted with Eversource only, but you may see them in other programs across the state. All right, so what is the goal of lighting in New Hampshire? Obviously, the main priority is continuing to convert existing technologies to LED. Due to how the program has been run in New Hampshire, there's still a lot of opportunity for LED conversions in the state. Um, just out of curiosity, one day I drove around and knocked on some businesses, and I was still finding T12s, which if you're familiar with lighting, you don't find those that often. A lot of customers still haven't made the switch to LED. So again, there's a lot of opportunity in this program and a great space for contractors to gain new customers and implement projects. Another big piece to this is lighting controls. We're very aggressive with lighting controls. That's the future of lighting. You may be familiar with Massachusetts, where now the program is all lighting controls focused. But with that in New Hampshire, we want to be making sure that people implementing projects are familiar with lighting controls, know how to install them, and understand the benefits so they can explain it to their customers. Okay, so the agenda for today. First, we're going to start talking about the different pathways. Some of you may have already gone on the small business webinar. There obviously is lighting in small business, but we also have the midstream option and downstream options, which I'll go into in more details. Next part of the webinar, we'll be talking about controls, use cases, best practices, and some studies and other ways that you can learn more about it to make sure that you're providing your customers with the best possible energy savings lighting project. And lastly, we'll have a case study done by Tara and Resource Innovations, just showing some of the metrics of a project with lighting controls. All right, the first pathway that I'm going to speak on is called Instant lighting, you may have hear this referred to as midstream. Sometimes people still call it upstream, but for the most part, we're calling it midstream these days. So with midstream, we have a third-party vendor that helps implement the program. They are called Energy Solutions. And what they do is they manage the program alongside utility employees and manage the distribution of these lights. In order to participate in midstream, the products being purchased must be listed by the DLC. The DLC, that stands for Design Lighting Consortium. And what they do is they are a nonprofit that tests and keeps track of all the lights that are acceptable in utility programs across the country. One important thing to note with midstream is products must be listed correctly in the DLC in order to participate if they have controls on them. Sometimes lighting vendors, or excuse me, lighting manufacturers are not updating their DLC listings, and that can prevent them from having their products sold through midstream. So um, if you're working with the manufacturer, make sure that um, all their widgets are updated on the DLC. And if you scan that QR code, there's a full list of instant lighting incentives. So midstream instant lighting, how does it work? This whole program is designed to be very easy for the user and contractor. Essentially, what you could do is you go to a distributor who is a participating distributor who is on our list, listed on the website, and the incentive is built into the sale. So there's no extra paperwork, there's no waiting. And what happens is at the counter of the distribution, they buy down the cost of the lighting fixture or lighting fixture with controls. So again, this is the easiest, quickest way to implement a project, and it's very good for smaller projects where you're just updating one office room or a section or floor of a building. So in order to participate, again, if you scan that QR code, that will bring you to a list of distributors who are participating in the program. Most of the distribution you find big names do participate in these programs. They've been around for a while and they're very familiar with the program. You just want to make sure before you go to the distribution that you have a product of know the product that you need, the lumen output, wattage, and you want to make sure that it qualifies. Also, the distributors, they will have lists of products that they sell that they know qualify. After your purchase, then you just need to go and install the product at a site with a commercial account in one of the participating PA regions. This is not acceptable program for residential customers. All right, midstream instant program rules and reminders. We just want to go over some quick high level things to take note of so you're ready if you want to participate in this program. Again, this is only for commercial and industrial customers serviced by participating utilities. The next piece to this is customers are only eligible for one incentive pathway. What that means is if you buy a lighting fixture or lighting fixture with control at a distribution, you can then not apply for an incentive in another program. We call that double dipping, and what that means is that if you do that, it's against the rules of the program, and it means that you're trying to get incentives from two pathways. We don't allow this. We keep an eye out for it. So just be cautious that you're not making any mistakes when you're applying for incentives. And always ask your distribution when you purchase a light, make sure that they're applying an incentive so you're aware. Again, equipment must be purchased through a participating distributor. And finally, it needs to be on the DLC's QPL qualified product list. Next slide. Sometimes if a contractor goes or customer goes to buy a larger quantity of lights, it depends on the uh, lighting category, but if you're trying to buy, let's say, over 100 lights, you may need to get a pre-approval, or the distributor may need to get a pre-approval from the participating utility before making the sale. And what we're doing there is we're just making sure that the sale is working in the customer's benefit. A minimum customer contribution is required on every fixture that is sold in the program. And the reason we do this is the lights that are sold, we can't allow anything to be completely free. So and that also shows that the customer is aware that there's a buy-in and that they know that there's an incentive. After the purchase, the product must be installed within 30 days. And you may be asking yourself, how do we know that? Which brings me to the next piece of this, which is inspections. We do inspections on projects. They're selected usually at random. But what will happen is after a project is inspected, or excuse me, installed, an inspector will come and make sure that the correct type of lighting was installed as a one-for-one replacement, and that everything is working functionally. So as an example, what we can't allow to do is if you have a linear fixture that's in a 10-foot ceiling, we can't allow a high output high bay to go in that area because it's not the right type of light for that area. It's too much lumens, and while we do pay more for that type of fixture because it costs more, remember these are energy savings programs, and we want to make sure that we are reducing energy usage across the board. And I think this is where Tara will take it from.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Hi, everybody. Is Tara Godet, and like Phil said, I work for Resource Innovations. Resource Innovations is the program implementer for the Eversource Express lighting programs in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And today I'm here to talk about the downstream lighting pathway, and then later Phil will talk to you more about lighting controls. And even though I work within Eversource programs specifically, this program is available across the New Hampshire Saves program. So downstream lighting is the most for lighting incentives. The reason that NHSaves is providing a higher incentive amount on the downstream pathway is because it does require more effort, and it requires verification of the existing fixtures as well as proposed fixtures and controls. Even though it is a little bit more effort on the front end, you are also receiving more support from your utility partners. This program specifically is available for large commercial, industrial, and municipal customers. And a key part of the downstream lighting pathway is the engineering review process. The engineering review process takes place both during the pre-installation phase and the post-installation phase. And it is key to know that with this pathway, you are receiving the payment after installation, and this is best for large retrofit fit projects. Next, I would like to talk about a few project opportunities and projects that we see often through our program. These three building types, office buildings, warehouses, and healthcares, And healthcare settings average the highest level of savings according to the DLC and are also very popular in our program. And here we have laid out some best practices for how you can set up controls to achieve the most savings. So when we are working with customers directly, the biggest concern we see is customers who have either had a bad experience with controls in the past or who are worried that they won't have any control over their lighting on the day to day. And what we say to them is really lighting controls can be as customizable as you want them to be. For example, in office buildings, we often have people working in them every day complain that they are too bright. And an easy way to fix this is adding wireless wall switch dimmers for all offices. With warehouses, a very common complaint is we see that popcorn effect that we know too well. You walk into a space and one light turns on, and then you walk 5 feet ahead and another light turns on, and that is just not a great user experience. But with controls, you can group an entire aisle together, and that really mitigates this problem and offers a better working environment. And then lastly, in healthcare settings, healthcare workers require a large variety of lighting scenes day to day. For example, and a common issue we see in optometry offices is they often need various lighting scenes to work with people in their eyes, and a very common one is that they need an extremely dim setting. This is something that can easily be accommodated by adding scene controls that healthcare workers can use on a day-to-day basis. So just a couple of where you can implement lighting controls, and Phil later will get into more specifics about lighting controls. Next, we want to talk about how you can participate in the downstream program. If you're not already familiar with the downstream program, please reach out to your utility partner and they can give you more information on how to submit an application. The way that you submit an application really does depend on your utility. For example, in Eversource territory, we use an online portal, but again, it varies depending on the utility. So please reach out to your utility partner. After you have reached out to your utility partner and submitted a completed application, the project will go through a pre-installation engineering phase. After the project has received engineering review, you will receive a pre-approval from your utility partner through the format of an official offer letter. This official offer letter both has an incentive amount as well as an expiration date and generally lays out the framework and rules for installing these lights and participating in the program. After you receive that official offer letter and the customer has signed that letter, you are free to begin work and install the pre-approved equipment. Again, the timeline for this will be outlined in that offer letter. After the installation of the pre-approved equipment, you will submit final documentation in the form of as-built, invoices, and signatures on any key documents. After this documentation has been reviewed by the engineering team, you will receive payment for the project. Again, a reminder that both during the pre-installation and post-installation phase, projects are subject to inspection. And to cover who is eligible, again, this is available for large commercial, industrial, and municipal customers across the New Hampshire Saves program. Now, over the next couple slides, we are going to go through some rules and reminders. Phil already touched on this, but customers are only eligible for one incentive pathway. That means that if you are collecting the midstream incentive at the point of sale, you are not able to use the downstream pathway. But a benefit of the downstream pathway is that equipment can be purchased anywhere. But this equipment must be on the specified qualified product list, the QPL, on the DLC. Again, pre-approval is required before you start the installation of a project. That official offer letter must be signed before you start work on a project. The offer letter also includes an expiration date. So please remember to complete your installations by that date, or you alert your utility partner if there is any delay. And again, another benefit of the downstream, the payment is flexible and can be paid out to either the customer or the vendor. And just a reminder that that official offer letter lays out the parameters for the installation process. And again, during both that pre-installation and post-installation phase, projects are subject to inspection. And as Phil said, with midstream, similarly in downstream, those are normally selected randomly. A last few reminders for you about the downstream program. Downlights and screw-in bulbs are no longer on the application. They used to be a part of the downstream incentive program, but are no longer included on the application and are no longer incentivized. Again, through our program, we are really encouraging the use of controls. It's a great opportunity to not only gain more incentives, but really create a great project for your customer with great energy savings. The last part of the downstream application process that I would like to touch on is the performance testing form. The performance testing form is really just a way of you letting the utility know how you are commissioning the controls that you installed. And this form is embedded in the application. The performance testing form is to be completed for any project that uses integral network lighting controls, and the template is embedded within the application and can be downloaded and filled out through Adobe. For those of you who are familiar with the downstream, this replaces the previous 30-day monitoring requirements. Again, please reach out to your New Hampshire Saves utility partners if you have any questions on how to complete this form. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Phil.
Thank you, Tara. Next, we're going to talk about other pathways. You may have heard of some already. The first one is custom. Custom is unique in the sense that it's applied to programs or projects that don't really fit in the prescriptive pathway. We don't see so many of these anymore, but a place where, it might be acceptable to use a custom pathway. And again, you need to talk to your PA before submitting. It was, let's say there's an agricultural facility that's using lights and kind of unique setup, or some type of state street lighting that is, serves a purpose that you don't see in general very often. The next pathway is the small business program. Again, that's for projects or customers at the site level that use less than 200 kW a month. Um, if you want to submit a project through the small business program, we have what's called the CDO vendor who manages all those projects for contractors, so they are able to submit projects. The final offer is the new construction pathway. Limited offerings through new construction. We don't see a lot of it anymore, but if you are a vendor or a contractor that deals in this space, my recommendation is to reach out to the new construction team and learn more about the potential opportunity. All right, I want to get into lighting controls a little bit more. As Tara mentioned in the past, people hear lighting controls and they think of the popcorn effect where you walk in and one light turns on, you walk a little bit further and another light turns on. The technology has changed recently, where now we see a lot of what we call LLLC, that stands for luminaire level lighting controls, which in the retrofit space, it's great because it uses Bluetooth and doesn't require any additional wiring. Um, with this type of setup, the sensors or nodes are built into every fixture. Sometimes you'll be able to see the node on the exterior of the fixture, and even now manufacturers are starting to install the Bluetooth technology into the driver. So what can happen is you can have a fixture without an actual sensor on it, but it will respond in the same fashion. However, the a fixture with a sensor on it is programmed. So they just need to be linked together. Um, because there's a sensor on every single fixture, they offer a lot of granularity and can offer the most savings. So as an example, let's say we have an office with 50 lights with one aux sensor. If we were to take those 50 lights and turn them into 5 different zones, if half the building doesn't show up to work that day, the lights that are over their desks can stay dimmed at 50%, offering more savings for the customer. Um, the so you'll see people talking about or hear people talking about LLLC. There's also NLC, which stands for Network Lighting Control. We use that terminology to talk about fully wired systems that have low voltage wiring running to every single fixture. It might be controlled from a hub or a BMS system. Typically, those are done in new construction, and we don't see a lot in retrofit just due to the fact of running low voltage wiring and connecting the lights can get very difficult. Also, standalone sensors, wired wall mount ceilings. You probably also see the ones you go into a room and there's just the little sensor on the wall. You walk in, the lights turn on. So we call those standalone. And to be honest, we don't see as much of that anymore because more people are moving towards the networked LLLC option. Again, it offers more granularity, more savings. That's the point of these programs. Um, I mentioned the DLC multiple times. It would be prudent of you to scan this QR code if you're interested of doing network lighting control projects and review this study. I consider this the Bible of lighting controls, and it's a very good way to get an understanding of lighting controls in the market and what the savings can look like. Um, Many programs around the country base some of their programming around the study. And they recently did a update to it last fall. And the new DLC 6.0 will address more of the LLLC questions that came up in previous years. So again, please scan that QR code, save that website, and read that study if you're planning to do any LLLC or network lighting control projects. So this is just a graph that comes from that DLC study. Um, you'll see here that there's 2 lines, LLLC average, overall average, and without LLLC average. What this represents is I said LLLC projects offer more granularity. So with that, you can gain more savings. So the DLC, they say that on average, a project with LLLC is saving 63%. With LLLC, because it's all wired and there's less granularity and oftentimes involves scheduling, um, that's at 35%. So what the DLC says is on average, if you're installing lighting controls of some kind with dual sensors, you're going to save around 49%. This is another spreadsheet from the study that I think is worth paying attention to. This can really help you understand what type of customers are going to see the most savings from these projects. And if you're looking to implement some of these projects and go door to door making sales, um, The places that are going to see the best benefit are warehouse. Obviously, warehouses are usually empty, people driving around on forklifts. So if those aisles where they're storing materials, someone's not there, after 5 minutes, the lights can dim to 50%. After 10 minutes, they turn off. You're getting a lot of savings. Places where you're not going to see a lot of savings from controls, assembly, meaning places where a lot of people come at a time for an event, let's say like going to a stadium for a show. Obviously, because there's so many lights there and so many people, all the fixtures are going to stay on all the time. And usually, how these are set up is after everyone leaves, everything just turns off anyways from a master switch. So familiarize yourself with this, use these tools to your advantage, this knowledge to your advantage while approaching customers. So when you talk to them, you can be educated on how this will benefit them. So in terms of the utility and what we care the most about and where we're capturing the most savings, obviously motion controls, that's a huge opportunity. If someone's not there, why does the light need to be on, right? Um, as Tara mentioned, it's not everywhere is appropriate for motion controls. Sometimes like retail, they want to have the lights on all the time. But that doesn't mean that they might still accept something like daylight dimming, where let's say there's natural light coming into the facility. What happens is the lights will automatically dim um, based on the amount of light entering the facility through the windows. So you can use natural daylight to your advantage rather than wasting energy on lights that are at the highest output. And the final place where we really see a lot of savings is the high-end trim. And that's when you take a fixture, let's say it's a 20-watt fixture. What you can do, you can turn it down to any wattage you want. So if it's a 20 watt fixture, but 15 watts is suitable for the facility, you can tune the light down so it never goes above the 15 watts. So again, these are the three primary ones that the utilities care about while looking at projects. We do get inquiries about things like scheduling, but if you think about it, scheduling, you can have a situation where the lights are on and no one's there. Yes, there are some savings that come just with general time of day and stuff turning off, but we find that these are the three best opportunities for savings in the program. All right, question to ask. First off, is it necessary? Do you need lighting controls? Think about places where you might not need lighting controls, a barber shop, an auto body shop, places where they always want the lights really, really bright all the time because they're doing work. Is it wanted? Does the customer want lighting controls? We've run into situations where people do a lighting upgrade and then the lights start dimming and the customer wasn't fully aware of what was being installed and how it would work. So there is a little bit of a hump to get over talking to customers about this. But in most cases, when people learn how the LLC works and how they're all tied together through Bluetooth and an app, they seem to be getting more accepting of it. Is it dangerous putting in controls? Back of house areas, manufacturing, where there's machines running, you don't want lights turning off. We try to stay away from that, as do the customers. Savings, how is it better than the existing? Again, we are always looking for savings. That's what we care about. If you're looking at a project, you should be asking yourself, will adding controls save more energy? And even if a room has an existing occupancy sensor on 50 lights, I can still be convinced that there might be savings by going more granular and creating more zones. Education, does the customer know what they're getting again, and do they understand how it works? Because these LLC fixtures are app-based, it's important that you teach the facilities manager or the owner of the company, whoever the contact person is, on how to use the lights. My recommendation is if you're doing a project with someone, try to convince them to get a dedicated device, tablet, something that they can, put on the wall, keep there. So if someone changes their job, that still exists and they can still control the lights with all those um, with the same app. What you don't want to happen is a facilities manager gets a new job, they leave with the app, and now no one knows how to work the lights. And then finally, again, relates same as number 4, commissioning. Are you maximizing the savings as much as possible? Think to yourself, is a 40-minute timeout necessary, or can we do a 4-minute timeout necessary? Another piece that we don't incentivize, but it's a great benefit to the customer, is wall switches. And what this does is this allows customers to select scenes and dim. We don't claim any savings on the dimming of these of the wall switches, but it's a really good additional benefit for customers. And I find that usually if they have this wall switch, people are dimming their lights and they're capturing more savings. Best practices, decide on responsibility before project starts. Like I said, who's going to manage this thing? Who's in control of the iPad? Who has the logins? Involve the customer. Mention this dedicated device. Practice at home, at your office, in my own house. I think I have about 8 different types of lights in my basement where I learn how to use these applications and learn about the lights and how they best respond. Educate all staff. And also another thing, buy lights and controls from the same location. You don't want to buy a light from someone, find a control that can be attached to it because it's $2 less, and then find out that they aren't compatible with each other. And again, do what is correct. Don't chase incentives. Like I said, if we get a project in an auto body shop where they want the lights on all the time, we aren't as excited about that as a warehouse. Um, and thankfully, we have a great training coming up on April 22nd that is going to be implemented by GDS at the Eversource Manchester office. GDS is a company like Resource Innovations. They do inspection for us, and they will be doing the training from, I believe it's 8:30 in the morning till about noon. And then afterwards, Resource Innovations is hosting an event down the street where we'll have some food. And at that event, there will be a lot of lighting manufacturing reps with their products. So you'll be able to get hands-on experience with some of these different products and learn about how they work and talk to the manufacturers. So please scan that, and we welcome all to join. This is going to be a great day. I'm looking forward to it. All right, I'll let Tara take it from here.
Thanks, Phil. So, lastly, we want to touch on a case study and go through specifically a manufacturing facility. This is an example we saw last year in Hudson, New Hampshire, at a facility called Massimo Semiconductor. And this is a great example of how you can use controls to maximize energy savings and create not only a great project for your customer, but also a very affordable project for your customer. So, at this site, new LED volumetric 2x2 and 2x4 troffers were installed in the corridors and offices, and new LED 4-foot and 8-foot linear fixtures were installed in the storage areas. This project also uses integrated sensors with occupancy monitoring and daylight harvesting, as well as high-end trim. And as you can see, led to significant energy savings that you can see at the top here, and a great ROI and payback of only 1.41 years. And that's not even taking into account maintenance savings, because that is a simple payback calculation. So again, just a great example of how you can use controls to really increase energy savings and create an affordable project using the downstream program. And then we wanted to show you an example of a performance testing form and what that looks like. So you can see at this facility, they used high-end trim, scheduling, occupancy sensing, and daylight harvesting to really maximize energy savings here. But that is all we have for you today. And please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, so I think there's a question in the chat. What is large business? And if it's small, how do I submit? Um, Talk to your PA. The best way to go about this is to get the account number and check with your PA before you start doing work and showing the customer proposals. But in small business, the cutoff is 200 kW a month. But it's always important to check uh, with your PA first. Next question. Are custom lighting control incentives considered for projects keen on programming for aggressive savings to earn more than poorly or not all programmed ones? Let me think about this for a second. No, so the way we work in these programs is we claim for LLCs, we have a number that we are allowed to claim that was decided through the state on savings. So for example, for LLC projects, we claim 49%. For standalone sensors, we claim 38%. Um, so if you go to a project and say, hey, we're going to aggressively um, set up the controls, we won't pay more money for that in the prescriptive program. And again, custom is up to the PA, where that's typically paid on a per kWh basis. If you were to go that route, you would probably have to do um, some monitoring of the usage after the fact. And depending on the PA, they might ask for like a 90-day report of how the lights were operational, just so they can verify how much incentive they're able to provide. But definitely talk to your PA about that one. Um, and last question, since NH follows IEC 2018, which requires that code compliance is triggered when more than 10% of the luminaires are altered, are incentives still available for lighting and or controls which are required by code and such upgrades? I think that's a very good question, and I am not familiar with the IEC 2018, but I think what this is asking is something that I addressed earlier, where if you're doing a project, it needs to be a one-for-one replacement. So you can't take a linear fixture and replace a high bay in that. We won't approve that, and we would fail that project in an inspection. But I'm happy to look into that more and we can follow up. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining our webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Tara, or any of your PAs, and we can go from there. Thank you.